Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel to a beautiful February morning. 8 to 9 degrees today. I don't know what's going on with the weather, but I like it. So today we've gotten this bike in. A customer bike who's had a few issues with it. A Zontes G125. And it's been acting up a little bit. As in not starting when cold, or very hard to start when cold, and generally misbehaving, usually when cold. When it's warm, it's running perfectly, but when it's cold, it sputters, it spits, it doesn't want to run right. So our mechanic took a look at it, changed the spark plug, and all he could find was it hasn't been ridden, not roughly I should say, but very, very gently. So the engine has been lugged quite a bit. And basically he asked me, can you do an Italian tune-up on it? Now what is an Italian tune-up? It's basically when you ride it a bit harder, you keep the engine in higher revs to get it up to its maximum operating temperature and clean up just about all the internals of the engine. Now what you do have to remember is that all we want to do is give the engine a bit of a run. So we don't want to break the transmission, we don't want to mess up the chain. All we need is just the engine we need to give the engine a bit of a workout. And today I want to take you along for the ride and see how we do an Italian tune-up. First of all, we need to get the engine nice and warm. Currently the water is at 48 degrees. We need to get it up to about 80-90 degrees. Get everything up to a decent operating temperature before we start hooning it. And also when I say hooning it, like I've said, we don't want to blow the transmission up. The transmission is running fine. We don't need to worry about the transmission. All we need to worry about is the engine. And just like with the ladies, before you go rough on it, you gotta do a bit of foreplay, right? Get everything nice and warmed up before you go all in on it. And that's exactly what we're gonna do right now. Just easily warm it up. These are one of the perks of working in a dealership. Yeah, sure, there's a lot of tedious stuff to do, but sometimes you get to have quite a little bit of fun. Now the bike I'm on currently has 1800 kilometers, so it's properly broken in. It's had its break-in service done. We don't need to worry about that. All we need to worry about is giving the engine a bit of a tune-up. Now the bike I'm on is a G125, so we have a 125cc liquid-cooled engine with about 15 horsepower. And I'm gonna take it a bit out of the city to properly work it a little bit. And this way we can see how it handles long distance, or should I say out of the city riding. In terms of squeezing through traffic, not a problem. I would have liked to see the handlebar just a little bit narrower to squeeze through some gaps, but that's good enough. Well, for the moment seems to be running absolutely perfect. Engine is up to 70 degrees water temperature. The engine runs smoothly. Easy to find neutral. Oh, Tesla. Nice. So the spark plug has been changed. Now, usually you shouldn't need to change it in just 1800 kilometers, but when our technician took it out, it was basically very, very black. And he suspects the engine has been lugged. And probably we have a bit of carbon buildup on the valves, we have a bit of carbon buildup in the catalytic converter, and it needs to be cleaned just a little bit. It's nice on the Zontes that you have, it actually shows how many temperatures, it actually shows just how hot the water is in the engine, so you can properly see what you're working with. Currently 73 degrees. We'll just let it get up to 80. Although in this cold temperature of just 8 degrees, it's a little bit harder to get some heat into the engine. But we're gonna try. Get it all nice and warmed up and have a bit of fun with it. It's nice how torquey the engine is. Way down low at 5,000 RPM, it has quite a bit of torque. It feels real nice. It feels quite a lot stronger than your regular 125s with just 10-11 horsepower. You don't have to rev the nuts off of it to get some decent power. See, 5,000 RPM, barely have throttle. Merging onto the highway, no problem. 6th gear. Let's get it warmed up. Come on, baby. Come on, warm up for daddy. 77 degrees should be good enough, so let's get on the highway. Now we're not gonna do some highway pulls because honestly, it's a 125. What do you expect from it? Don't expect it to do Hayabusa style pulls. But let's see, we're merging on the highway. Come on, girl! Into 5th, let's get it going. So it's maintaining 77. In these cold temperatures, that's the temperature it wants to be at. You know what? On the highway, this bike's actually pretty comfortable. Now sure, I have quite a lot of wind on my chest, but that's holding me up right now because the normal position is a bit lean forward, and now with the wind, it's actually pretty comfortable. And in terms of stability, yeah, I still don't like the chunky tires, but otherwise, it feels really, really nice. A bit wobbly while passing the truck, but otherwise, 104, one-handed, not a problem. Now what I am noticing is the wing mirrors are vibrating. I can barely make out what's behind me. But that's normal for this little engine. Now this is some of the stuff we kind of have to do every now and then because some people baby their bikes so much they actually hurt them. You do have to remember these engines are thought out to work at higher RPM, so yeah, you might think that keeping it at low RPM is good for it and you're gonna maintain it for quite some time. But honestly, if the engine is thought out to be working between 6,000 and 9,000 RPM just about all the time. Sure, in the city you can't blow its valves off at 11,000 RPM all the time. But every now and then, just get it out on the highway, keep it at some revs. So we're currently turning at 8,000 RPM at 101 kilometers an hour. It might seem high for a normal bike, but this is a 125, it's liquid cooled. It's barely at 83 degrees, so it's barely getting up to temperature. That's normal for it. This is how the engine likes to be run. You're not hurting it. This is what it's meant to be doing. This is how it's meant to be run. Now sure, don't keep it throttle wide open for hours on end. I'm currently just less than half throttle. So I'm maintaining 8,000 RPM at less than half throttle, which is more than normal for this kind of engine. You don't have to be scared of the high RPM. Now the tire should be nice and warm, so we can lean it a little bit. Yeehaw! Come on, baby. Who says you can't have fun on a 125? Come on now. If it has two wheels and an engine, you can have fun on it. Okay, let's not get rear-ended. know, it's pretty nice how it leans, even on these chunky tires, and probably on some decent tires it would be even nicer. But the chassis is pretty confidence inspiring. It's quite a nice bike to ride. Maybe with the windscreen on it, it would be a bit nicer on long distance trips. And maybe the 155 with its bigger engine would be nicer on long distance trips. But in terms of comfort, hell yeah. You could ride this all day long, no problem. The seat is nice and wide and comfy. The bars are nice and tall. I really like the ergonomics on this bike. It's nice how the tank is nice and wide and you can properly grip it. So in terms of highway riding, seems to be running pretty good and strong to me. Really good, no problems there. Let's see it in more of a tight city situation now that it's warmed up. Nice and easy. Let's... Now, boy. Once again we hit traffic. Wonderful, wonderful Bucharest. Now, like I said, we're just trying to do an Italian tune-up to the engine, so don't be harsh on the transmission when you do this kind of things. You don't need to go full throttle and bang through the gears like you're trying to break the transmission. We're just trying to keep the engine at some higher RPMs and run it a little bit harder. The transmission is working fine, and we don't need to do anything to it. A few pulls here and there. And also the engine doesn't need to bounce off the rev limiter before every shift. Just get it in the higher RPM. Oh, come on, man. Seriously. You just have to get it in the higher RPM before red line, but close to red line. And shift then, but don't be harsh on the shifts. Like I've said, we're not trying to blow the transmission out of the bike. We're just trying to clean up the engine a little bit. Now I can see how you could lug this engine. In third gear at 5,000 RPM, it's very quiet and still has quite a lot of torque. So I can see how you could lug the engine. But like I said, you gotta remember, this is a high revving engine. It starts out to be run at higher RPM. No smoke from the exhaust, so everything is fine. The engine is at 85 degrees, running beautifully. Now we're not gonna put it in eco mode. We don't need eco mode. Let's be serious here. Oh. Get it in second. I'm pretty not used to the transmission. Sometimes I miss shifts. You have to be very deliberate with the gear lever to get it to change properly. And it's also not helping that my boot is kind of big and not fitting under the gear lever. It's a bit tight down there. I'd have liked a bit more space. Let's slow down for the railroad crossing, because it's a bit bumpy, and then we can get on it. There we go, nice 2 to 3 shift. Well, look what you have up front. Somebody's gonna blow his engine very soon. I think that thing is burning more oil than it is fuel. God damn it. Come Come on, man, don't drive around in something like that. Seriously now. If you have this kind of problem with your car, just get it fixed. I mean, what the hell? Jesus, he's burning all the oil from his engine. Oh boy, some people. I hope he's going to a service station. I hope that's a service garage. Now, you don't have to judge the bike's acceleration by how hard it's currently accelerating, because I'm not opening the throttle wide open. I'm just letting the engine rev out. That's basically all I'm doing. I did a couple of pulls, but most of the time I'm just letting the engine rev out. Keep it in the higher RPM. So impressions after about 20 kilometers. I really like it. Seriously, I really like this bike. Now that's not a big of a surprise. I kind of like all bikes. If it has two wheels and an engine, I'm into it. But it rides really, really nice. It's really comfortable. The position is comfortable. It's a bit lean forward, but when you're on the highway, the wind pushes you back and you don't feel any weight on your wrists. So that's nice. The suspension is not that bad. The seat is comfy. You can even get yourself up on the pegs if you want to. It's small enough that through city traffic you can make your way through traffic. Not as good as a scooter, that's for sure, but it's doable. So yeah, really, really like it. And in terms of the tune-up, well, this bike's running just fine. Let's be honest. Hasn't stuttered, hasn't spit, hasn't missed a beat. First gear is a little bit short for my liking, but that's probably to help beginner riders get off the line quicker, because if it would have been any longer, then you would have to feather the clutch quite a lot more to get it off the line. Because you do have to remember, at 2000 RPM it doesn't have quite a lot of torque. It has at about 4,000 to 5,000. Thank you. It has decent torque at 5,000 RPM, but at 2,000 and like doing this, but come on. As soon as the traffic gets going, you have to punch it a little bit and then grab second almost immediately, because you run out of first gear. But it's nice how short it is when you are filtering. Easy does it. But once again, if you do city traffic, I would still recommend a scooter. This ain't bad, but a scooter is just better. Like here with my scooter, I would have passed quite easily between these cars and gone all the way up front. But with this thing, with its wide handlebars and wide crash bars, I can't. Okay. Finally managed to make our way up front. One more pull for old time's sake, and then we're gonna take it back. Very deliberate with the gear shifter. You have to be properly deliberate, otherwise you're just gonna mess your shifts up. But otherwise the transmission feels nice. Let's see the brakes. Nice and strong brakes, easy to balance. Come on. In terms of acceleration, acceleration, honestly, I would still like my 200cc scooter. The CVT transmission just works better in terms of acceleration with these smaller engines. The 155 feels a little bit stronger than this one, but this one doesn't feel bad also. It's the torque you're missing out on. Sure, it has a little bit more torque than regular 125s, but still it's not a lot of torque. And with the CVT transmission, you can use the higher power of the engine, the higher RPMs. This you have to work the transmission a little bit more. And we're back at the office. The bike ran beautifully. The bike ran beautifully, no hiccups. I can't see anything wrong with it. Works perfectly. What I am gonna try is let's shut it down and see how well it starts up now that it's properly warmed up. Okay, on. Nice and easy. Good girl. Let's get it back. That has been it. So now, in case somebody tells you you need to do an Italian tune-up on your bike, now you know how to do it. Just run it a little bit harder, but don't blow your transmission. Easy on the shifts, easy on the clutch, just get it higher in the rev range. Until next time, guys, take care out there and ride safe. Goodbye.